At my own grandson's school fundraiser, my daughter told the principal I was just an old man from church, so nobody would know I was his grandfather. And then she dropped my late wife's brass music box into the donation bin like it was junk. I stood there with a paper cup of coffee cooling in my hand, watching that little box disappear between used toys, old coats, and a cracked lamp somebody had brought from a garage. 10 years had passed since my family last invited me to Christmas. 10 years since my son stopped answering my calls. 10 years since my daughter decided I was embarrassing because I drove an old blue Ford and still wore work boots to town. But that music box was not junk. My wife, Eleanor, had kept it on our kitchen windowsill for 42 years. It played a little broken version of Moon River, and on the bottom, scratched into the brass with a sewing needle, were 5 words she made me promise never to forget: keep the boy near truth. I didn't understand why she carved that before she died, not until that afternoon. My name is Walter Harlan. I am 68 years old. I spent 31 years as a county property assessor in western Pennsylvania. My job was boring to most people. Lines on maps, deeds, easements, tax parcels, old signatures, boundary disputes. But you do that work long enough and you learn something important. People lie with their mouths. Records rarely do. If you've ever been made to feel small by your own family, stay with me, because what happened next changed everything I believed about love, blood, and justice. My daughter, Marcy, had become the kind of woman people praised in public and feared in private. She wore cream-colored suits, spoke softly in meetings, and posted pictures online about kindness, charity, and family values. Around town, she was known as the woman who saved the old mill district. She ran a nonprofit called Harlan Hope Foundation, using my late wife's maiden name because it sounded warmer. My son, Derek, was worse in a quieter way. He smiled with his teeth but never his eyes. He had gone into financial planning and wore watches that cost more than my truck. Both of them liked to say they came from nothing. That was their first lie. They came from a little brick house with homemade soup on the stove, clean sheets, bedtime stories, and a mother who worked double shifts at a clinic so they never had to feel poor. I had not seen my grandson Noah in almost 3 years. Marcy always had a reason. He was sick, he had homework, he was at camp, he was overwhelmed. Then one Monday morning, a folded school flyer appeared in my mailbox with no return address. Grandparents' Heritage Fundraiser. Saturday, 2 p.m. Bring one family object and share its story. Someone had circled the word grandparents in blue crayon, so I went. I wore my brown jacket. I polished my boots. And I carried Eleanor's brass music box wrapped in a soft towel. I thought maybe Noah had sent that flyer. I thought maybe, after all those years, that little boy still remembered sitting on my porch steps eating peaches from a paper bowl. When I saw him in the school gym, my heart nearly gave out. He was 10 now, tall for his age, thin at the wrists, with Eleanor's serious eyes. He saw me before Marcy did, his face opened like a window. "Grandpa Walt," he whispered. I started toward him. Then Marcy stepped between us. Her smile stayed fixed, but her fingers dug into Noah's shoulder. "Dad," she said, low enough that only I could hear, "this is not the place." "It says grandparents," I said. "It says guests," she replied. And you know Noah gets confused. Noah looked down at his sneakers. That hurt more than her words. A few minutes later, the principal asked families to place heirlooms on the display table. Children had brought quilts, war medals, old baseball gloves, recipe cards. I set Eleanor's music box gently beside a framed photograph. Marcy picked it up with 2 fingers. "What are you doing?" I asked. She laughed, just loud enough for the nearby parents to hear. "Dad, this thing smells like a basement. We're raising money, not opening a junk shop." Then she walked to the donation bins and dropped it in. A few people turned. Derek, who I hadn't even known was there, muttered, "He always makes scenes." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't grab her arm. I didn't call her what grief wanted me to call her. I looked at Noah. His eyes were wet. He whispered, "Was that Grandma's songs?" Marcy snapped, "No, go help with cupcakes." That was when I noticed something. On Marcy's lapel was a gold pin shaped like a small lantern, the Harlan Hope Foundation logo. Under it, in tiny letters, were the words, "Legacy Campus Campaign." I had seen those words before. On a county zoning notice taped crookedly to the old mill fence 2 weeks earlier. That notice named 3 parcels planned for redevelopment. One of them had belonged to Eleanor's sister, Ruth. Another had belonged to an old church. The 3rd parcel was listed under a holding company. I didn't recognize Bluebird Civic Trust. The name bothered me. Eleanor used to call Noah my little bluebird when he was a baby. I waited until the fundraiser ended. Marcy kept Noah away from me the whole time. Derek stood near the donors, laughing with a banker and patting backs like a man campaigning for mayor. When the gym emptied, I went to the donation bin. The music box was gone. A janitor named Luis saw me looking. He was about my age, with tired eyes and kind hands. "You looking for the brass box?" he asked. "Yes." He glanced toward the hallway. Lady in the cream suit took it back, but something fell out when she dropped it. He reached into his cart and handed me a thin strip of yellow paper. It was an old repair tag from Mill Street Jewelers. Eleanor must have tucked it inside years ago. On the back, written in her careful handwriting, were 3 numbers, Unit 17. Gate code 0412. Below that, 1 sentence. "Walter, if they shame you, look where I kept the winter coats." My knees weakened. Eleanor had been dead 6 years. She had never mentioned a storage unit. I didn't understand that note until the next morning, when I drove to the edge of town and found Birch Road storage behind a closed tire shop. Unit 17 had a rusted lock, but the office manager recognized my wife's name immediately. "Mrs. Harlan paid 10 years in advance," she said. "Said only you could enter if she passed." Inside were no winter coats. There were 12 bankers' boxes, a cassette recorder, 3 framed photographs, and a child's blue drawing folder with Noah's name written on the tab. I sat on the concrete floor and opened the first box. My wife had kept records the way some women keep recipes. There were copies of checks, letters, land transfers, medical bills, emails printed from Marcy's old account, and photographs of documents I had never seen. At first, I thought Eleanor had been worried about family money. By sunset, I knew this was not about money anymore. It was about a child, Noah. The blue folder held school counselor notes from when he was 5. One line made my chest feel hollow. "Child reports mother says Grandpa Walt does not want him anymore." Another page said Noah had drawn a picture of my house with a black X over the porch. Under it, the counselor had written, "No says, Mom said, Grandpa chose the dead lady's stuff over me." I put the paper down and covered my face. Eleanor had not been gone a month when Marcy started telling that boy I had abandoned him. In another box, I found the reason. Years before she died, Eleanor had inherited mineral rights beneath a strip of rural land nobody cared about. Later, a gas company leased nearby acreage. The royalties had grown quietly, then suddenly. Not millions at first, then more. Eleanor had put the money into a private trust, not for Marcy, not for Derek, for Noah's education, care, and long-term protection. The trustee named in the document was me, but I had never received notice because Marcy and Derek had filed a petition claiming I was unreachable, unstable, and estranged from the family. My own children had signed statements saying I was mentally unfit to manage funds. The trust had been moved under temporary control of a professional firm. That firm was owned by Derek's business partner, and the account balance, according to the last statement Eleanor saved, was $4.8 million. I sat there until the storage lights clicked off above me. That night I did not sleep. I listened to the cassette Eleanor left. Her voice came through thin and scratchy, but it was hers. "Walter," she said, "if you are hearing this, I waited too long to tell you. I found papers in Marcy's laundry room when Noah was little. She and Derek were planning to use the trust for the mill project. I confronted them," they cried. "They promised me it was only temporary. I wanted to believe our children." Then she coughed, and I heard how sick she had been. "They will try to make you look confused. They will say grief changed you. Don't fight them with anger. Fight them with dates. You always trusted dates." I pressed my hand over my mouth. Then Eleanor said 7 words that still visit me in the dark. "Walter, don't let them sell his future." The next morning I drove to see a woman named Priya Shah. She had been a young clerk in the recorder's office when I still worked for the county. Now she was an attorney who handled elder exploitation and trust fraud. She listened without interrupting. She read the trust papers. She read Marcy's petition. Then she looked at me with the careful face people use when news is worse than expected. "Walter," she said, "they didn't just take control. They're trying to terminate the trust. What does that mean?" "It means they're claiming Noah doesn't need it because Marcy's foundation will provide for him. If a judge approves the transfer, the money can be folded into the Legacy Campus campaign." "The fundraiser," I said. Priya nodded. "The hearing is Monday morning." It was Thursday, 4 days. That was the ticking clock. And before I tell you what was inside that file, let me ask you something. If your own child tried to erase everything your late wife built, would you stay quiet or would you fight? I fought the only way I knew how. Quickly, Priya filed an emergency appearance with the court. Luis from the school signed a statement about the music box. The storage manager gave us Eleanor's rental records and signature cards. I went to the county office and pulled every parcel tied to Bluebird Civic Trust. That was when the second betrayal appeared. Bluebird Civic Trust had purchased land around the old mill using loans backed by expected donor funding. The donor funding was Noah's trust. Derek had pledged money he did not legally control. Marcy had advertised the Legacy campus as a shelter for struggling families, but the private plans showed luxury apartments on the top 3 floors. When Priya saw the plans, she whispered, "They're using charity as wallpaper." On Friday afternoon, Marcy came to my house. She did not knock like a daughter. She knocked like a warning. I opened the door. She looked past me at the old wallpaper, the worn sofa, the photographs on the mantel. "Dad," she said softly, "people are worried about you." "People?" "Derek." "Me, Noah's school. You showed up uninvited with a dirty object and upset him. That dirty object belonged to your mother." Her mouth tightened. "Mom is gone, and you keep using her to make everyone feel guilty." I studied her face and saw the little girl who used to run through sprinklers in a yellow swimsuit. I wanted that child back so badly it nearly made me weak. Then she handed me a brochure, Silver Pines Memory Residence. "I made an appointment for you," she said. "Just a tour, somewhere safe, somewhere with help." There it was, fake concern wrapped around a cage. "You want me declared incompetent before Monday," I said. Her eyes changed for half a second, then she smiled. "Listen to yourself. This is exactly what I mean." Before she left, she said, "If you love Noah, stop confusing him. Let him have a normal life." After she drove away, I found something tucked under my doormat. A folded sheet of notebook paper. In a child's handwriting, it said, "Grandpa, do you still have the porch light?" I sat down on the step. Noah remembered. That little porch light had been our signal when he was small. If Eleanor baked cookies, she turned it on before sunset, and Noah would run across the yard from Marcy's house yelling, "Porch light night." I kept that note in my shirt pocket like a heartbeat. Saturday, Priya called me to her office. She had found one more document, a notarized statement from Eleanor, dated 3 weeks before her final hospital stay. It was not a will. It was a declaration of intent for Noah's trust. In it, Eleanor stated that Marcy and Derek had pressured her to redirect trust funds into their real estate project. She stated she feared they would isolate Noah from Walter if she refused. She attached a witness list. One name stopped me cold. Reverend Paul Emery, our old pastor. I had not seen him since Eleanor's funeral. He lived in a retirement apartment now. Priya and I found him sitting by a window, reading with a magnifying glass. When I said Eleanor's name, his eyes filled. "She came to me," he said. "She was scared of what they were becoming. Why didn't you tell me? She made me promise to wait unless they acted." He reached into the drawer of his side table and removed a sealed envelope. "Your wife said you'd come with a lawyer when the time was right." Inside was a photograph. Eleanor, sitting at our kitchen table, holding the brass music box. Beside her was little Noah, age 4, pressing the key with his thumb. On the back, Eleanor had written, "The song proves where the key is." Priya looked at me. "What key?" I remembered then. The music box had a false bottom. Eleanor used to joke it was where she hid treasure from greedy pirates. I had not thought of it in years, but Marcy had taken the box. Sunday morning, I went to church for the first time in months, not to pray for revenge, to keep from breaking. After service, Luis found me in the parking lot. He looked nervous. "I shouldn't get involved," he said. "But your daughter gave that music box to the auction company. Pickup was yesterday." "Do you know which one?" He handed me a card, Brindle & Co., Estate Auctions. The auction started online at 6 that evening. Priya called the owner and warned him the item might contain legal evidence. He didn't want trouble. By 5:30, we were in his warehouse, standing among dining sets, antique lamps, and boxes of dead people's belongings. The brass music box sat on a table with a white tag, Lot 88. I picked it up with both hands. The bottom still had Eleanor's scratched words. "Keep the boy near truth." Priya found the release latch under the velvet lining. The false bottom opened with a click so soft I almost missed it. Inside was a small safe deposit key taped to a strip of paper, and on that paper, in Eleanor's handwriting, "For Monday. Ask for box 312. Take Noah's drawing." The bank opened at 9 Monday. The court hearing started at 10. We had 1 hour. That morning, rain fell so hard the courthouse steps looked silver. Priya and I were at First County Bank when the doors unlocked. The safe deposit officer checked the paperwork, examined Eleanor's death certificate, my ID, and the key. Box 312 was narrow and heavy. Inside was a flash drive, a bank receipt, and one sealed envelope addressed to Noah. The receipt showed a rejected wire transfer attempt for $900,000 from Noah's trust to Bluebird Civic Trust. Rejected because Eleanor had placed a dual signature safeguard on the account. Yakult signatures, Eleanor Harlan and Walter Harlan. That was why they needed me declared unstable. Not because I was old, because I was the lock. The flash drive held audio. Priya listened with headphones first. Her face hardened. "We need to go," she said. The hearing room was small, wood-paneled, and too warm. Marcy sat at one table in a navy suit. Derek sat beside her, looking polished and bored. Their attorney had a stack of folders and the calm face of a man paid to make theft sound responsible. Noah was there too, sitting in the back with a court-appointed child advocate. When he saw me, his lips parted, but he didn't speak. The judge, a gray-haired woman named Honora Bell, began. Marcy's attorney argued that the trust was outdated, that Eleanor had not understood modern financial planning, that I had isolated myself, and that Noah would benefit from transferring the funds into a community-centered educational campus. Then Marcy stood. She dabbed her eyes with a tissue. "My father has been struggling for years," she said. "We love him. This is painful. But he is stuck in grief, and now he is upsetting my son. We simply want to protect everyone." Derek added, "Dad doesn't understand money anymore." I looked down at my hands. Those hands had held theirs through fevers, taught them to ride bikes, signed college checks, buried their mother. Priya stood. "Your Honor," she said, "we have evidence that Mr. Harlan was not unreachable, not unstable, and not estranged by choice. We also have evidence that the petitioners attempted to access trust funds for their own development project." Their attorney objected. Judge Bell allowed Priya to proceed. First came Eleanor's declaration, then the storage records, then the rejected wire transfer, then the property documents connecting Bluebird Civic Trust to Derek's partner. Marcy's face lost color. Derek whispered something sharp to his lawyer. But the room changed completely when Priya played the recording from Box 312. It was Marcy's voice, 10 years younger, angry and clear. "Mom, you're acting like Dad is some saint. He signs whatever you put in front of him. If we can get him out of the trustee role, this whole problem goes away." Then Derek's voice. "We don't need all of it. Just enough to secure the mill financing. Noah will still be fine. He's a kid." Then Eleanor, weak but steady. "You are talking about stealing from your own son." Marcy snapped back. "I am talking about building a name this family can be proud of." The recording ended. Nobody moved. Judge Bell looked at Marcy. "Did you know this recording existed?" Marcy opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Then Noah spoke from the back of the room. "Mom," he said, small and broken, "you told me Grandpa didn't want me." Marcy turned. "No, honey, this is adult business." He shook his head. "Did Grandma know you lied?" That question did what no lawyer could do. It stripped the room bare. Judge Bell suspended all transfer actions immediately. She reinstated me as acting trustee pending full review. She referred the matter to the district attorney for investigation of fraud, elder exploitation, and attempted misappropriation of trust assets. Derek's financial firm was ordered to produce records. Marcy's foundation accounts were frozen. Then the judge asked Noah if he wanted to speak privately with the child advocate. He looked at me. "Can Grandpa turn the porch light on?" he asked. I had to grip the table to stay upright. After the hearing, Marcy tried to approach me in the hallway. Her face was wet now, but I no longer knew which tears were real. "Dad," she whispered, "please don't let them ruin me." I looked at my daughter and I saw the cost of loving someone who had learned to use love as a tool. "You ruined yourself," I said quietly. "I'm just opening the file." Derek called my name once. I kept walking. Justice did not happen all at once. It never does. It came in letters, subpoenas, resignations, audits, frozen accounts, and eventually charges. Marcy lost the foundation. Derek lost his license. Their names came down from the mill project sign before winter. The money stayed where Eleanor intended. For Noah, not as a weapon, not as a trophy. As protection. The first night Noah came back to my house, he stood on the porch and touched the old light fixture like it was something sacred. "You kept it," he said. "I kept everything that mattered," I told him. He slept in the little back room. Eleanor had painted pale green years before. Before bed, he asked if the music box still worked. I set it on the dresser and turned the key. The song came out cracked and slow, but it came. Noah listened with his knees pulled to his chest. Did Grandma love me? He asked. I sat beside him. More than anyone knew, his eyes filled. Did you stop loving Mom? I breathed in slowly. No, I said. But loving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt a child. He nodded like he was trying to carry a truth too heavy for 10 years old. A few weeks later, Priya gave Noah the sealed envelope from Eleanor. Inside was a drawing he had made as a little boy. It showed 3 stick figures under a yellow porch light. Grandma, Grandpa, me. On the back, Eleanor had written, Noah, if grown-ups ever turn love into a maze, look for the people who kept the light on. That became our new promise. Every Friday night, I turn on the porch light before sunset. Sometimes Noah comes for dinner. Sometimes he brings homework. Sometimes he says nothing at all and just sits beside me while the music box plays its tired little song. Healing is not loud. It does not erase what happened. It comes slowly, like warmth returning to a house after a long winter. If this story touched your heart, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read those places like little porch lights in the dark. They forgot me for 10 years because they thought an old man without an audience had no power. Then I vanished from their lives with the millions they tried to steal. But I did not take that money for revenge. I took it back for a boy who had been taught he was unwanted, for a wife who protected him from beyond her grave, and for every quiet elder who has ever been called confused just because the truth was safer buried. Blood can betray you. Paper can prove it, but love, real love, keeps the light on.